My name is Katie Childs and I'm the Chief Executive of Chawton House in Hampshire, and I'm delighted to be able to join you for Heritage Digital today, even if it is from my sitting room in South London. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've done at Chawton House over the course of the last few months, and hopefully there might be something in there that is something you could take back to your historic house or sites and replicate there. Now, there's a couple of things that are really important to remember as I go through this. The first is that on the 24th of March, we had absolutely no digital programme at all. So everything that you see has been done from scratch since then. And almost equally important, we had no money. There is nothing in what I'm about to show you that has got a grant behind it. We were, as I'm sure many of you were, ineligible for almost all emergency funding. So there's nothing here that's been funded by the Arts Council. There's nothing here that's been funded by Historic England, and we were ineligible for the National Lottery Heritage Fund. And there's a slight irony about me sharing what we've done because we had to do it without them. So what we have done instead is share what we knew between us as a team and pool our knowledge, but we've used freely and commonly available platforms and tools to be able to present what we have done at Chawton House. What we've lacked in money, we made up for in enthusiasm, and really genuinely the only thing we've spent money on is a slightly improved Zoom subscription. Now, you may not know who we are, that's fine. We're probably most famous because we were owned by Edward Austin Knight, who's Jane Austen's brother. And it's because Edward owned Chawton House and the estate that he was able to provide a cottage on the estate for Jane, her sister Cassandra, their mother, and Martha Lloyd. And it's from that cottage and from the village of Chawton that Jane completed the 6 novels for which she's now world famous. The proximity of the cottage to the house would mean that she was really very familiar with the property, with the contents, with the gardens and the landscape, and it influenced her life and influenced her works. She spent months and months and months in Edward's library, and we have the remains of that library at Chawton House now. And since 2003, we've also been at a centre for early women's writing, and we have this extraordinary collection of 15,000 works by women writers dating from 1600 to the later 19th century. It's really not what you would expect at the top of a long drive just outside of Alton in Hampshire. This is us. As you can see, it's not the centre of a big throbbing metropolis. I'm sure there are rural areas with super fast broadband. We're not one of them. We've also got no phone reception. And when you do look at our website, you'll realise that it is in need of work. So we've worked around some fairly ancient website architecture to be able to deliver what we've done. Now, I mentioned that we had no digital programme on the 24th of March when we had to close to the public. But in that newsletter where I announced our closure, I said we were closing the gates, but we weren't going to close Chawton House to the public. And we looked around for what bit of digital content did we have, and there was one project that some of our volunteers had heroically transcribed some of our works in our collection. It's about 30 works in our collection, so you could download and read these at home. And so we started by promoting novels online, which as I said, there are about 30 of some fabulous titles. And This Life and Surprising Adventures of Mary-Anne Talbot is one to keep an eye on because she makes a reappearance a little bit later. But look at the length of that web address. That's the sort of website architecture we're working with. So it's not easy. It didn't even occur to us that we were going to mothball. It didn't occur to us we were going to stop. It didn't occur to us we would come over all Mrs. Bennet, to borrow an Austenism, and go, oh, what will become of us? We are an independent organisation, but we're also very independently spirited, and we just frankly dusted ourselves down and thought, okay, so what do we do now? And the first to do that was one of was Cleo O'Sullivan, who's our public engagement and communications manager. And within a week, she had worked out that we were going to do a quote a day and use that to tell different stories from the collection. And as you can see, the quotes don't just relate to our time period, but they do also relate to our subject period. This became a really good spine over the course of lockdown for us to be able to promote other things and hook and link to other events that that we were doing. And she also noticed that hashtag Rainbows of Hope was a popularly used hashtag and created a 7-week program using the colours of the rainbow, whereby we would focus on either an object or a view from the house in the collection, and then she would tell snippets of the story and link to different sources of information, so people could get a little snippet of what Chawton House was. When she launched it, she tagged in a whole bunch of other Hampshire organisations, and full marks to those who joined her: Gilbert White's, Jane Austen's house, and I think heroically Burlesdon Brickworks, who knew bricks were so colourful, who joined for the 7 weeks. We, like many organisations, moved our special exhibition online. We primarily did it because we know there are people who come every year to Chawton and therefore they wouldn't be able to see it. But I think it's worth just pausing and thinking about special exhibitions. I'm yet to be convinced that people will necessarily sit down and look at a special exhibition unless you've got other content around it. It's not really how people consume information, either on the devices that they're using or the platforms on which we're using. Instead, we stepped back and looked at how do people use platforms. People meet in Zoom and they discuss. People watch films on YouTube, but probably no longer than 20 minutes. People want small comments and tiny highlights of the day through Twitter. They'll use their phone to listen to audio, but they'll probably use their laptops if they're doing something that takes a little bit longer. So rather than crowbarring our content into those platforms, we instead looked at how people behaved online and adapted our content to that. So although the special exhibition is online, it's wrapped up in other digital content, so that people have a journey to get to it. Because I'm not sure necessarily that you sit on your sofa and go, do you know what, I'm going to go and search for an exhibition to watch or an exhibition to read tonight. Man Up, I should add, is a really extraordinary exhibition. It features an amazing cast, 3 of which are here. George Sand, that's our portrait of George Sand, the writer, the First Lady Aeronaut, Letitia Sage, who's an absolutely extraordinary woman, and Mary-Anne Talbot, whose novel I alerted you to earlier. And the way in which we had to do the exhibition, because as I said, we had no money, was that we photographed everything on smartphones. The staff who were in the house taking instructions over Teams and Zoom from Cleo and the curators about how to do it and what she needed photographed. Cleo searched for different tools to be able to make the presentation as interesting as possible. And I think in future we will look at our online presentation of the collection, but it will be to support what we're doing on site and to support other areas of digital activity. That said, the response to us putting the exhibition online was wholly positive. But we didn't just want to be broadcasting content. We didn't want it to be passive consumption. We wanted people to get involved. Chawton House is a place where people meet. It's a place where they reflect, they discuss, they spend time with other like-minded people or their friends and family. And we wanted to recreate that in the digital space as well. The first group that we sort of piloted this with was our reading group. This is our wonderful reading group. And as you will see, they are, and I hope they don't mind me mentioning this, they're all definitely born after 1994. And when we said we were going to do this digital programme, I think there was many words of caution that, oh, your core audience won't know how to use the technology. They'll be too nervous for it. That's rubbish. If you create interesting enough content and you make it as straightforward and as unintimidating as possible to get involved, people will, and people did. Kim Simpson, who was one of the kind of core team who put this whole digital program together, is on the top row, second from the left. She's our academic in residence who we share with Southampton University, and it was some of her expertise in how she's having to use Zoom for teaching that framed how we have developed this digital program. And it was Kim who piloted the poetry challenge that we launched in April. We knew people would be at home. They would be probably in need of using arts and culture for reflection and understanding the confusing world around us. And so she used poetry from our collection as a way of encouraging people to express their creativity and make sense of the world around them. We had about 40 poems submitted, and this is the only one short enough for me to include in this presentation, but it's beautiful. So thank you to Nicolette Turner for this gorgeous short poem. We were also, as we were doing all of this in April and May, we were delivering tea boxes on high days and holidays across East Hampshire. And we did one for VE Day, which sold out in a couple of hours. Within it, though, we included these recipes that Enya had created based on wartime recipes, and also a history, little pamphlet about the history of the house in the Second World War. We put all that online using our social media channels so that if people couldn't buy a box, they could still make the contents of the box at home. Now, I'm including this because I want to show you that we want to make digital as just part of everything we do. It's just another facet of everything that we do, even if that is delivering afternoon tea boxes over a bank holiday in May. But we were cooking up something quite big. When we closed, we wanted to do one big online event during what we imagined would be the lockdown, so the first 6 weeks at least of lockdown, because we knew people would be at home, we knew people would be receptive to this sort of content. And we've never done a literary festival on site, let alone online. And I think there's something of the confidence of naivety where we decided we were going to do it probably a day, maybe 2 days if we had a number of people agree to take part. And in the end, we ran 35 events in 3 days. And the first 2 people we asked said no. So then we just went and asked every single person and pulled in every single favour we possibly could, and ended up with 3 days worth of content. We mixed home team, so our curator Emma and others, with academic content and academic researchers who spent time at Chawton, with some headline and household names. You'll see Joanna Trollope, and we're very lucky that Wendy Moore was also Radio 4 Book of the Week this week, which was one slice of good luck. The Literary Festival was free because we wanted people to have unfettered access to arts and culture at a really difficult time. Although the workshops were paid for because they were limited to the number of people who could be involved. They sold out in an hour, which definitely told us that there was a market for doing online creative workshops, and that's become a staple of our digital engagement ever since. And we've just done more and more and more, and the sorts of subjects, the sorts of things that we do workshops on, that's all on our website. You can take a look at the sorts of things that we're doing. You'll notice we also varied the pace, so it had the pace of a real life event, and we used our website. So we had a landing page on our website with a big button underneath each part of the program that said watch now, that would take people to exactly the right bit of YouTube to watch the films on YouTube. Now, we use the premiere function on YouTube, which is a really good one because it allows you to comment when the films are being premiered. But altogether, we've had 20,000 views of the content, which is more than we had visitors to Chawton House last year. We had sign-ups from 2,028 people in 49 different countries. And we did it really as a fundraiser as well. So this programme was interspersed with fairly cheesy films and me popping up, imploring people that if they could, to donate the cost of a ticket for an event to Chawton House. We raised £4,500 over the course of the weekend, and our American friends raised a similar amount. So it was very well received, and something that people felt matched the time in which we were operating. We're really grateful for everybody who took part, but you'll notice we also included other historic houses and sites as well, and we've always been happy to share what we've done. The feedback, as I said, was wholly positive. I could have put any number of the emails or Facebook comments or Twitter comments, and we had a hashtag running through the festival for the whole weekend. But this was probably my favourite. It still slightly chokes me every time I read it, because it is exactly what we wanted to achieve when we did the literary festival. Now, if we'd have known that lockdown was going to last so long, we might have not done this just 2 weeks afterwards. We may have put another week or two in between the two events. But we also did a garden festival, which had another 800 people sign up to it. It's had again thousands of views of the contents. But we wanted to focus on our gardens because they were looking beautiful, and because we knew it was the first thing that we were going to be able to open when the site could reopen again. So we did a garden festival, and with this, we relaunched the what had been our in-house magazine for years and years and years, and they had suspended 2 years ago. Again, budget cuts meant that we couldn't manage to produce a sort of hard copy of this. In January, we decided we were going to do a digital version of this, probably in June anyway, but it really did feel like a publication for our time. We put a price on it, so it's £3 to download through our online shop, but we did distribute it free to obviously to our contributors and friends, but also to everybody who'd donated over £25 to our emergency appeal. And I said that the festival had been free, but as lockdown eased, I should say, we realised that what we needed to have was more of a mixed economy of paid for and free content. And so our summer series of lectures, discussions, and the obligatory quiz was paid for content, but still affordable. And that's something that is a principle that we won't move from at Chawton House. And we started to work in partnership. As we built our reputation, people approached us and said, would we work with them to create events? So we worked in partnership with the Jane Austen Society to present their 80th birthday party. Again, you'll find all of that on our YouTube channel. And there's a really life-affirmingly beautiful film which involves all the Jane Austen societies across the world, which Kim put together and edited, and just shows that digital content like this has such an important role when the whole world is in crisis, and yet you can bring people together to discuss literature and the author. Now, our digital content is available in perpetuity through our shop, the free things on YouTube, the paid for content through our shop, and this was in response to requests that people could they buy it, which we're absolutely fine with. We've got in our digital shop opened in April. We were very lucky that the structure of this was within the website, but the shop includes a number of downloadable gifts and downloadable products, as well as this sort of digital pay for digital content. So what are we doing now? Well, as we move into autumn, winter, and goodness only knows what happens next, as I said, we'll keep this mixture of free and pay for content. And the free content that we've just launched in August was a Chawton House podcast. I'm particularly proud of this because this is the idea and the work of one of our youngest members of staff. Lizzie Frisbee is one of our assistant duty managers, so she does a bit of everything at Chawton House, but she's also an early career radio producer, and she asked, as part of building her portfolio and her experience, if she could make a podcast about Chawton House. We were, of course, very, very happy for her to do that. We help her make the connections and help her make sure that it's on popular platforms like Spotify and SoundCloud and iTunes. And we'll promote it to our audience because we're very proud of her and the beautiful job that she's done to put this together. There are 4 episodes up at the moment. There are 2 coming, and then she's working on a second set of 6 podcasts, which will take us through the autumn and winter. And lastly, well, we've finished our summer series as summer's faded, and as you would imagine, we're now on the autumn series. We've got a Gothic season, which will be on-site and online starting next week. And then we'll move into a month of craft activities, again on-site and online, and then with absolutely no imagination at all, Christmas and New Year over December and early January. So our very next event is by the fabulous Alison Daniel. You'll be able to see Alison's free talk on Elizabeth Knight, the only female squire of Chawton House, on our YouTube channel. But she is back for our Gothic season with the fabulously titled Of False Hair, Bolstered Hips and Witchcraft. And I'm thoroughly looking forward to this. All of our talks now have a Zoom Q&A afterwards with the speaker. And so we are really replicating that whole way of doing an author event that we would have done as our autumn programme on site and doing it online. The only difference now is that we're doing it for between 40 and 200 people, which is far more than we could ever fit into our great hall. So if there's anything in here that's piqued your interest or you want to find out a bit more about what we're doing, then our YouTube channel is there, our website is there, and our social media handle is always at Chawton House. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. There's my email address. Thank you for listening. Take care. Goodbye.